The Underground Railroad in the United States was a secret network organized by people who helped men, women, and children escape from slavery to freedom. The Underground Railroad operated before the Civil War ended slavery in the United States. Because the Underground Railroad process was conceived in secrecy and silence, much of the Underground Railroad history is not known in the Buffalo-Niagara region. We do know, however, that the Buffalo-Niagara area was a major pathway to freedom in Canada for African American slaves in the early to late 1800s. According to the Niagara Falls UndergroundRailroad.org website, Western New York had a well-established network of abolitionists and anti-slavery activists. There are several well-documented sites that confirm Underground Railroad stations in the Buffalo-Niagara region. There's even an Underground Railroad driving tour that you can do, which brings you to all the known sites in the Buffalo-Niagara region and in Fort Erie, Canada. The Niagara Arts and Cultural Center website gives a vast amount of information regarding the Greater Niagara region. There's an on-site exhibit which tells the story of the Underground Railroad movement in this area. The exhibit includes photos, artifacts, and written stories. The Greater Niagara Underground Railroad stations were called Freedom Crossing. Here, fugitive slaves crossed the suspension bridge from Niagara Falls, New York to Ontario, Canada. According to the NACC website, Harriet Tubman led escaping slaves across the suspension bridge. She quoted, "When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything, and I felt as if I was in heaven." The website also tells us that an abolitionist named Thomas Root had a special arrangement with one of the border guards at the bridge and used a code message which allowed him to cross without inspection with fugitive slaves. Sitting at the foot of Ferry Street in Buffalo, New York, what is known presently as Broderick Park was the location of the Black Rock Ferry. This ferry was a major transportation link from Buffalo, New York to Canada across the Niagara River. This ferry was used as an Underground Railroad station from the early 1800s until the Civil War. It is said that many slaves escaped while traveling with their masters, who came to the area either as Southern officers serving in Western New York during the War of 1812 or while visiting the popular tourist destination, Niagara Falls. The fugitive slaves, once they noticed Canada was only separated by a half-a-mile river, knew that they had to make their escape. According to an archaeological survey through the Department of Anthropology at UB, the ferry boat captains were often willing to convey fugitives across the river without question and sometimes with no charge. The archaeological survey also explains that because the area around the Black Rock Ferry had a lot of boat traffic coming and going in the area, there were plenty of workers of all nationalities working at the dock. Therefore, because of this, and Buffalo's relatively high population of African Americans, it was not unusual for African Americans to be around the docks, making it easier for the fugitive slaves to blend in and escape to Canada. Buffalo's close proximity to Canada made it a popular stop for fugitives escaping to Canada. However, many African Americans were able to escape from slavery and found safety and work to live in Buffalo without having to escape to Canada. The rich history on the Underground Railroad sites in the Buffalo-Niagara region make it easy for us as educators to teach our students about the history of slavery and the Underground Railroad in the U.S. outside of the textbook and into the community. We can bring our students to these sites, as well as the Freedom Crossing exhibit in Niagara Falls, in order for the students to be able to make the meaningful connections with history and what we learn about in our own area.